uncertain. Are they going to break it up? Is Steve Kerr coming back? They get Jimmy Butler, and they surge all the way through, and now they're through the first round.
The Warriors have guys, because of how special their star three trio is, they can make the guys around them better, and they can elevate the way that they play. And we saw that. Steph Curry, 3 points in the first half, steps up in the second half, 19 points in the second half to carry them home.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
I don't know what he was doing taking step-back threes at the end of that regulation when he's got bigs on him and he should be driving to the hole.
It's already bad enough that I'm playing with all these NBA and D1 studs that are unstoppable, and I'm the worst one there, and I can still ball with them. But if I start calling fouls, they'll revoke my privileges. Like, I man up when I play with them.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on Sport.
It's another glorious Sunday morning right here on the Sports Grid Network. It's 10 a.m. Eastern, and that means it's time for Pro Baseball Today. Donnie Rightside and Tom Vecchio. Over the next 2 hours, we will take you through every single game on the Major League Baseball card, get you caught up on exactly what happened in the previous week, and also what we are going to look forward to in the next coming weeks here. It's mid-May. The weather is absolutely fabulous in the Northeast today. 70 degrees, a little bit of a cool breeze out here. We're waiting for some action today, but before we get there, Tom, we got a lot to go over today. How we feeling?
I'm doing good. We do have a lot to get to today. We'll lead things off with touching on some injuries, different players around the league, some odds for some season awards. We'll get into the games and go literally game by game. If everyone is new here, we break down every single game across the board from the 1 p.m. games all the way to Sunday night. As you said, weather is a little bit warmer. We're also, I want to say, like at this sweet spot where we have really good sample sizes on pitchers, 40, 50, 60 innings pitched, wherever it might be. The at-bats are piling up. We know exactly what the players are doing. It really puts us in a good spot to narrowing down who we should be focusing in on when it comes to props. I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, it's going to be good stuff, too, because now, as you're right, talking about some of those statistics that you can start to trust. You even get, like, the full season statistics, the last 30-day statistics. You can break it down as opposed to how you want to look at some of these pitchers, lefty-righty splits, home and away splits. There's enough innings there that you could certainly hone in and get that information that you need, which we'll give you certainly today. A lot of hot topics, though, on the docket before we get to the games themselves. I do want to start with this one. This week, big news. Major League Baseball, Pete Rose. You take a look and say, all right, is he in the Hall of Fame? We'll find out. But at least now you take a look at the commissioner saying, Rob Manfred, we are going to remove him from the ban list, which means he's eligible to make it into the Hall of Fame. I want to start right there, Tom. Agree with that decision here from the commission? Also, your thoughts on Pete Rose and possibly getting into the Hall of Fame now?
I think this probably should have been done years ago. Or that's just my take on it. Regardless of what happened when he was the manager, as a player, the accolades stack up like to the highest level you could possibly want to see a player there. So we're dealing with two things. A, the first step is obviously getting him removed from the ban list. The toughest step now is going to be saying, do the writers, who I have an issue with, and that's just my personal take, the fact that Ichiro wasn't a unanimous, voted into the Hall of Fame and someone left him off the list. Now the writers are the ones holding him back. So it's good that he was removed. He should have been there. And now we're dealing with this, I'm going to say, large impasse that we have to get a ton of writers to agree that he belongs in the Hall of Fame because, frankly, the writers have some standard that they want to hold players to, which seems to fluctuate on a player-to-player basis. So he should be in the Hall of Fame, but I'm not sure how quickly he'll get there.
Yeah, it's the one part there, too, because usually you would hold him out, which they did until he passed away, so he didn't get the gratification of getting into the Hall of Fame. There's no reason why a baseball writer, if you believe he should be in the Hall of Fame, there's, let's let him wait another 2 years. Wait, he's already dead at this point. Like, what are you waiting for another 2 to 3 years? He's either in or he's out. And sometimes you look at that too, Tom. It's like you can't tell, the history of Major League Baseball without Pete Rose. And I do agree with you in some situations where it's like, okay, what he do as a player, what he did as a manager, and also what he did off the field. But that's not really what the gauge is. It's what did you do on the field when you were a Major League Baseball player? I do think he makes it. And also in that was Shoeless Joe Jackson and the Black Sox scandal way back in the day for throwing World Series. There was some, did he participate? Did he not take money? But he also now eligible for the Hall of Fame. So interesting doings from the commissioner. I don't know if the timing was right. And I don't know, Tom, if the timing was ever going to be right with Pete Rose, Shoeless Jackson, and a couple other players. So it is what it is here. But you do think that Pete Rose will eventually get into the Hall of Fame, right?
I do. And listen, like you said, there's no reason to wait. Either you vote him in the upcoming year or you don't, and we just have to decide and move on.
The hit king, as they called him here. We'll see if he does get eventually into the Hall of Fame. If we're taking a look at Major League Baseball updates now, not talking about Hall of Fame, maybe somebody on this roster will be Hall of Fame pitchers, but there are injuries to certainly worry about. And the first two we'll talk about, which is crazy. We have a Minnesota Twins team, which we will get to a little bit later here with the win streak they have. But now, losing two good players. Why? Because they collided into each other. Buxton and Correa, concussion protocol, not slowing the Twins down. That's tough injuries, man. Still continue. That train is running right down the tracks, Tom.
Yeah, I want to say the series versus the Orioles was kind of like a house of horrors for them. We saw one of the day games, we saw Harrison Bader slide into the wall where his knee hit underneath the padding against the wall. And then we have Buxton and Correa bump into each other on a pop fly, and they both end up on the concussion protocol list. Correa left that game immediately. Buxton stayed in, and then he went on the following day. And this is Buxton, a player that's dealt with so many injuries over the past few years. So you could say that this isn't an injury per se. It's not like he's been dealing with a knee or a back as he has with Bud has been dealing with, but this is still a serious thing. And like you said, they're still rolling, which we will get to in an upcoming segment, and they're now without two of their best players. And we got to remember, Royce Lewis just made it back into their lineup recently. So it's good to see the Twins winning, some may say. We'll get to that. I have my thoughts on that. But yeah, tough go for them right now.
No, it is. And typically we take a look at the skilled player positions that get injured. But usually what's dominated on the IL, it's pitchers here. And that's what we have certainly on this list here. Aaron Nola with a sprained ankle. Tanner Houck with a little right form tightness. Jose Quintana, 15 days there with a left shoulder impingement. Bryce Miller and also Roki Sasaki. But the Philadelphia Phillies one I think is interesting to me. Is it really a sprained ankle, Tom? Or is it, hey, kid, your ankle's sprained. Why? Because you're pitching bad. Okay, I'll take a couple days off and see you in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think it might be the latter, which we do see with, I would say the same thing with Tanner Houck. When we were looking at Nola's numbers, was it last week before the Sunday night game when they played at the Cubs? Nola had a 5-something ERA, but his xFIP was a little bit better. So it's it's one of the situations where we could say he's getting a little bit unlucky. He's actually pitching kind of well, but the stats look terrible, 0-5, 5+ ERA, whatever it might be. I think that's what we're dealing with Tanner Houck as well. It's hey, let's pump the brakes. We'll bring up another pitcher, take a little bit extra rest, hone in on things, and you'll be back out there.
Yeah, the Phillies also staked Aaron Nola to a 5-1 lead against the St. Louis Cardinals. He got crushed in that game. 12 hits, I believe, 7 earned runs. So head to the IL. Maybe that's just to clear his head and get his pitching mechanics correctly here at this point. If we're taking a look at some pitchers who dominated this weekend, look, one of the pitchers I love is Hunter Brown. Jacob deGrom, we know, one of the best pitchers of our generation here, starting to come back into form. They were sensational. A 1-0 ball game. 8 innings pitched for Brown, 8 innings pitched for deGrom. The only run in that game, a solo home run here. Love to see that pitching performance. The Battle of Texas, technically, I guess, went to deGrom there.
Yeah, it was an awesome matchup on, was that Friday night? That was great stuff from them. Thursday, Friday night, whatever it was. It felt like a playoff game. We have our frontline stars out there, absolute the best. Tension is high. Obviously, the rivalry weekend brings things into play. A one-run great game. It was great to see. Now, obviously, we have seen Hunter Brown really jump up when it comes to Cy Young in the AL. Now, DeGrom was there at the start of the year. A lot of people were buying to his buyback. He was 15, 16 to 1, somewhere around there. But Hunter Brown has taken a big leap when it comes to the AL Cy Young race.
Yeah, he certainly has at that point. Tarek Skubal there at plus 185, still hanging around, and rightfully so at that point. But some names that we don't necessarily think about, specifically with the AL Cy Young Award race, we got some pretty good young names up there at the top of that list as well. Expectations for those young pitchers, is to perform well. But also expectations, Tom, will get you fired if you do not perform. And that's the Baltimore Orioles. You take a look at Brandon Hyde, fired by the Orioles, the third manager to get fired this season. Look at the statistics for him, too. 2023 AL Manager of the Year, which means he made it 2 more years, or short of 2 more years, becoming a manager here. You're hired to be fired. We understand that. But when your expectations are high and you're underperforming, a lot of times, Tom, your players can't go. The manager has to go.
Right, and frankly, the GM for the Orioles should also be on the way out. And this is what we said. We talked about the Orioles, like, oh, look, we like what they have, but those young pieces need to develop, and the pitching is an issue for them. We got to remember that Grayson Rodriguez is one of their top pitching prospects, or I don't know if he's called him a prospect at this point because he's pitched full season, but he hasn't pitched this year. He's been injured since spring training. So we have pitchers, one of the worst pitching staffs in the entire league. We have some of their young players that haven't stepped up and are struggling. It's the worst of everything happening at the same time, and the manager is gone. We need to see the GM gone in the offseason as well.
Exactly. There's a frontline starting pitcher, too, in Corbin Burns. It all adds up here. But you know what? A team that started and struggled the season opening was the Minnesota Twins, people. You know what we're going to talk about in the next segment? The Twins going streaking even without 2 of their best batters in the lineup. Incredible stuff. So much more to go over right here on a Sunday morning. It's Pro Baseball Today on the SportsGrid Network. Tom and Donnie, yes, sir, we got you covered.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and that's long rehab. You're talking
That's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times, but screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Let's go streaking in Major League Baseball. By the way, we are going to take a look at some of the standings in just a few moments. But if you take a look at the Twins, 26-20. Middling around, playing decent baseball, Tom. 13 games in a row to get them 6 games above 500 and within 4 games of the Detroit Tigers. The Twins, look, I don't love the lineup. I don't love the pitching staff, but I got to love the results for 13 in a row, Tom.
The Twins, as I was discussing pregame with our producers behind the scenes, Sam and AJ, the Twins have cost me a lot of money over the past week. I've talked about them before. We talked about it on the preview show this season that I thought they should not have been the favorites to win the AL Central. I like the Tigers ahead of them. I talked about their lineup. I didn't love it. I didn't love their pitching staff, as you just mentioned. And they're still winning games. Now, it got to a point where they had won 7 in a row, and that was 7 straight wins just to get back to 500. And I said to myself, okay, nice run for them. They're going to lose. But what do they keep on doing? They keep on winning. And to your point, as we talked about before, no Buxton, no Cray in the past few games. Yep. So credit to the Twins. They're going to lose today. They're not going to get to 14. Whoa. And then they're going to pick up a few losses in a row and help me get back some of that they caused me to lose.
Yeah, it's ebbs and flows of a Major League Baseball season. Underwhelming Twins to start the year, as we said, 13-0 now, starting to climb up in the standings there. And if we do take a look at some of the standings quickly around Major League Baseball in the American League East yesterday, the Yankees did fall to the New York Mets, but they are still in first place by 4 games over both the Red Sox and the Blue Jays, followed up by the Rays and the Orioles here. And again, we just talked about in the previous segment, the Orioles fired their manager, which maybe they can get a bump, but the manager's not stepping up to the plate and hitting 2-8 in their last 10 games. Certainly not good enough here. But the Red Sox now winners of 1 game in a row, along with the Blue Jays and the Rays. Kind of a topsy-turvy East right now, but it seems like the Yankees team to beat still, Tom.
Yeah, still the team to beat. And I got to say, they're fortunate for where they are. Like, the other teams are just not putting the piece together. We talked about the Sox to start the season. We like them. The Orioles obviously not performing. And then we're just going to have this middling action. It's like, okay, the Blue Jays, they play the Sox, they win 2 out of 3. Then the Red Sox play the Rays, they win 2 out of 3. So there's no real movement in the standings because they win 2, they lose 2, they win 2, they lose 2. And if the Yankees keep picking up series wins, I think they'll have these teams kind of at arm's reach for the majority of the season, and they should be in a good spot to hold down the division.
Yeah, out west, they have the Seattle Mariners now, winners of 2 in a row, only 5-5, though, in their last 10 games, 25-19, a game and a half lead here over the Texas Rangers, who then have a lead over the Houston Astros by a game themselves, followed by the Athletics, 2 games now under 500, and then the Angels last night with a big win against their crosstown rivals, 19-25, 6 games back here. But the Mariners, a team that looks like they're finally starting to hit at the plate, which is something we always worried about the past couple of years. Just can they stay healthy and continue to pitch well will be the question, Tom.
Yeah, that's the question. It's like we've always worried about their offense because they're they have amazing pitching and their hitting is finally coming around, but now they're dealing with the injuries to the pitching staff, so it has to be the reverse. Can they kind of like tread water with the pitching and let the offense carry things? Or do they have to make a move and pick up another pitcher? Because we got to remember that they're still, Logan Gilbert's still on the IL, or went to the IL. We have to remember that. They still don't have, George Kirby has yet to pitch this season. So they may need to pick up a pitcher at the deadline instead of needing to pick up a hitter, which is what they've needed for the past few seasons.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch them because that'll be a tight division all the way through. Astros, Rangers, and Mariners probably going to be the cream of the crop when it all settles down. The Athletics are a fun brand of baseball, but now minus 60 run differential. Lost 4 straight games. It was fun talking about them, Tom. Over 500 now. Doesn't look all that great at this point right now. Let's flip it over to the National League. As you saw yesterday, the New York Mets knocked off the New York Yankees. They still sit in first place in the NL East, but a close competition between them and the Philadelphia Phillies, only a game and a half back, starting to separate themselves, Tom, from the Braves, the Nationals, and the Marlins. And the Braves, big lead yesterday, losing heartbreaking fashion. A Rafael Devers walk-off shot, which, by the way, his first walk-off home run of his career. That's how the East sets up right now.
Yeah, and the Braves are certainly looking better. We got news earlier this week that Ronald Acuna is starting to play in AAA rehab games, which is good news for them. And when it comes to Nationals, I know we'll obviously preview that game later. This is what we talked about with the Nationals before, I want to say a couple of weeks ago, maybe in the middle of April, that obviously they're not going to compete for the top of the division with those 3 teams, but they're a team that's going to cause trouble to those other teams. So you can't look at the Nationals like, oh, we're going to go in and sweep them, the Braves, they can get back on track, pick up some wins. That's not going to be the case against the Nationals offense that can certainly move.
Yeah, fun National League East. And you're right about the Nationals. Like the offense, there's a couple guys in that lineup on a day-to-day basis that had the ability to do some damage, which we will talk about a little bit later in the show. The Central's run by the Cubs right now, but only by 1 game because of how hot the St. Louis Cardinals were coming in. 9-1 in their past 10 games, winners of 3 in a row. The Reds, Brewers, and Pirates bringing up the rear here. But the Chicago Cubs and my guy PCA, man, there are some fun battles in that division.
Love what we're getting from the Cubs recently. I was on PCA a couple times this week for some hit parlays, which we'll get to. Kyle Tucker, he's on my card today. I honestly thought that the Cardinals and the Brewers would be flipped in their spots. You know, I talked about the Cardinals, wasn't super in love with their pitching staff, nor their lineup coming into the season. The Brewers a little bit lower than expectation. I thought there were some hitters in that lineup. There are some hitters in that lineup that I really do like. They just haven't put the piece together. And I got to say, the Reds are where they are where I thought they would be. Where they're a fun team. They got a little bit of offense. They got a little bit better at pitching. They're not consistent, but they can, again, cause some trouble for some of those other teams.
No doubt about it. And then the West, man, how the West was won is going to be a story this year. Oh, no, the Dodgers, Tom, illegal, unfair, going to win by 15 to 20 games in that division alone. That's not the case right now. The Dodgers, who are still in first place, 29-17, only 5-5 in the last 10 games, followed by the Padres, the Giants, the Diamondbacks, and then there's those Colorado Rockies showing up on offense yesterday and still have a minus 143 run differential. But the Dodgers, the top of the standings. But are we going to see this 3 to 4 team race for the rest of the summer, Tom? That could be fun.
I think so. I think, we're going to see really good pitching from the Diamondbacks to continue the season. The Padres have been a little bit slow on offense as of late. They will get that picked up. They'll come away with the win today. But again, if you are willing to fade the Dodgers on a daily basis, you have been raking over the past 5 losses over the past 10 games for the Dodgers. You're getting all those at plus money. Take it easy with that because they will turn things up and they'll go, 9-1 over their next 10.
No doubt. They're fun. And also sometimes, like I had a tweet come at me yesterday. It's like, you know what? Sometimes we get bad beats, right? Where it's like, man, either an HRR parlay or an RBI prop where a guy was on third base and a guy got thrown out at the plate. We've all been there. But yesterday, for like no statistics for Aaron Judge and or like Shohei Ohtani was pretty impressive. Like, man, how does that ever happen at that point? Specifically when you're getting close to double-digit runs here from the Los Angeles Dodgers. But that division certainly be fun and a fun way to play it the rest of the season. We'll see who comes in first place. But we got business to do now. We're going to go over every single game starting next. Get your handicapping hats on. It's Tom and Donnie on a Sunday morning.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and that's long rehab. You're talking
that's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times. But screw the Celtics.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word. Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
The Battle of Texas. Let's start the handicapping there. And we sort of talked about an unbelievable matchup earlier in the week when you take a look at Jacob deGrom going up against Hunter Brown. Not necessarily that type of pitching matchup today, but could we get some fireworks? It's Houston, it's Texas, it's Valdez on the mound versus Jack Leiter. This game's going to start at 1:05 Eastern. Line opened up somewhere around that minus 140 price point, but that is dropping here. So you see that heavy favorite for Houston. Now some money starting to come back here on Texas with Leiter there. The total, which opened up at 8.5, that also, the majority of outlets, Tom, has dropped from 8.5 down to 8 here. Are we looking at not a lot of hitting today? Because I got to tell you, I'm going with a certain angle here in just a few minutes. What are you feeling here?
I'm going to guess the angle you're going with is that if there's offense going to be happening, it's probably from the Astros side of things, and it may not be from the Rangers. So, like, I could see the under hitting, but the Astros win this game, 6-1, 6-2. It'll be close, somewhere around there, 5-2, whatever it might be. So we look at Valdez, and he's the same pitcher this year as he has been over the past few years, where he's not a big strikeout pitcher. It's at 22.7% this year. The walks are fine at 8.4. The key for Valdez has always been ground balls, medium contact. A 57.6% ground ball rate from Valdez is his bread and butter, 49% medium contact rate. I'm not sure there's a ton of hitters on the Rangers, I should say, the Texas Rangers, that I like to say, just because there's no one that really can excel in a spot that he's just going to be inducing all these ground balls. When it comes to Jack Leiter, this is where the issues start, and this is where the offense is going to happen, because Jack Leiter, highly touted prospect, but a 19% strikeout rate and 11.6% walk rate is very, very dangerous. And when it comes to the power allowed, it's actually power that we're going to be seeing from the right-hand side. He hasn't allowed any home runs to righties this year, and the ISO isn't high. But look at the underlying stuff. A 47% fly ball rate and a 39% hard contact rate allowed to righties is a really dangerous spot.
No, it's certainly a dangerous spot, too, because that's what I was trying to look at. Like, why do we have those statistics starting to dive a little bit, particularly with the opening number here and some money coming back in on Texas? Now, granted, Texas at home, Texas a quality ball club. They're probably not going to get blown out. We get all that. But Jack Leiter's the guy that's right in my crosshairs. If you just look at the last 30 days in Major League Baseball, a 6.16 ERA, which, again, we don't care all that much about. Just use that as a backboard, a 6.09 xFIP. From on my card today, there's 28 pitchers I have rated over the past 30 days. He's 28th right now, dead last at this point. And you might not look at some of the statistics here of what happened over the past 30 days and the season. If you look at 121 batters he's faced, Tom, on the season, an 0.94 ISO and a weighted on base percentage of 273. You say, boy, that's really good. Flip it over to the last 30 days. It's actually not all that much higher, but he is starting to struggle a bit with lefties. But the strikeout numbers, which are only 19% on the season, now only 15% over the past 30 days. Left-handed batters only striking about 11% of the time. You're going to get into some trouble. And just looking at that Houston lineup over the past month, Isaac Paredes, a 414 weighted on base percentage going up against right-handed pitching. Christian Walker, 363. Diaz, 338. DeCenzo, 337. Myers, 336. It's not a great lineup, but I'm just leaning more towards on the pitcher side for me. It is with Houston. And by the way, let me ask you this quick question. Jose Altuve used to be a staple on my cards. He never makes my cards anymore, Tom. What's the deal with him?
So I was actually looking at Altuve the other day on Baseball Savant, and I can double check this during the break, but I'm pretty sure his bat speed is super low. He's not making the same contact that he once was. Like, this is a player that I would, again, be willing to go back to. Top of the lineup, you just give me a hit. Or just give me a hit, just get on base. We can work with that. And that really hasn't been the case this year. So it just may be a changing of the guards in Houston at this point. And we're going to be looking to Paredes, and Walker got off to a slow start, but he's much better now. And Pena, that's the player I really do like from the Astros.
Yeah, Houston money line for me. You take a look at, again, Framber Valdez on the season, 226 batters he's faced, a 144 ISO against and a 297 weighted on base percentage. You flip that to the last 30 days, which includes 131 batters he's faced. That 144 on the season from the ISO power number drops to 127, and that weighted on base percentage of 297 drops to a 280. If we're just looking at the last 30 days with some analytics, his ERA over the past month here, over 34 innings pitched, Tom, that's a 2.65, but very manageable. xFIP number at 3.43. So just over the past 30 days, Valdez, 3.43 xFIP. Jack Leiter, 6.09. But yet, Tom, that line is ripping in the opposite direction. Somebody knows something out here in these streets? Maybe so at this point. But if I'm just looking at a better pitching matchup here, it's going to land here with Houston. And also, the Rangers lineup, Tom, against left-handed pitchers, you have Wyatt Langford, high weighted on base percentage. Josh Jung, high weighted on base percentage. Everybody else struggling, Tom. I don't know how they're going to get it done in Texas today.
I'm seeing this as Astros in the under. Like, when it's all said and done, like we may differ on like who's going to score or who's going to produce, I should say, from the Astros, but it's Astros in the under today.
Astros in the under. Could it be at this point here? Love to see it. But by the way, we have a battle in Philadelphia we're going to talk about. Paul Skeens is on the mound. Does it matter? Because the Pirates going to get maybe 1 run today, 2 runs if they're lucky. It feels like that's what they do. The Battle of Pennsylvania, the Keystone State. Up next right here on Pro Baseball Today.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and you know that's long rehab. You're talking
That's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times. But screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Major League Baseball in the 1 o'clock hour. Let's hit it hard right now. It's Tom Vecchio. It's Sonny Wright said it's Pro Baseball Today right here on the Sports Grid Network each and every Sunday morning, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. to get you caught up on the day's hot topics. Handicap every single game on the Major League Baseball card. It's your place to be all spring and summer long. Just a few moments ago, the Philadelphia Phillies tweeted out, Tom, prior to today's game against the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Philadelphia Phillies recalled right-handed pitcher Mick Abel from AAA Lehigh Valley. So let's get to it right now. It's Skeens and it's Abel on the mound, 901, 902 on the rotation, a 135 start from Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. How about the Phillies overnight? A slight favorite at minus 118 here. It's flipped back to Skeens at around minus 112 to minus 115, depending where you're shopping at. A total that opened up at 8, now sits at 8.5. Let's start right there. Paul Skeens is on the mound today. Going up against a pitcher, we're not actually sure how he's going to respond being in Major League Baseball, but the Pittsburgh Pirates lineup is so bad, even Paul Skeens struggles to be a favorite. That's incredible.
It really is, and this is a spot where I think you could take the Pirates' first 5, but the Phillies still end up winning the game because Skeens is awesome.
Wait a minute.
And I will say there are some issues I may have with Skeens this year. His strikeout rate's a little bit lower than last year. It's actually noticeably lower, but Skeens wins, and then, okay, you turn it over to the Pirates bullpen, and then the Phillies bats come through, and they still win the game. So that is one thing I could see actually happening. Mick Abel, as you said, is starting. Lehigh Valley, I don't know their mascot name. I know it's the Lehigh Valley
Iron
Phantoms.
Pigs. Iron Pigs, baby.
The Iron Pigs is an amazing name. I know it's the Phantoms for the Flyers, Lehigh Valley. But Mick Abel is a former first-round pick, 15th overall in 2020. He actually has a pretty darn decent sample size and stats that we look at from AAA this year. When we're looking at a 392 xFIP, obviously that will probably increase as he gets up to the majors. A 26.6% strikeout rate. Doesn't struggle with fly balls at 44%. this is a pitcher that, okay, he strikes him out, he can induce ground balls, and we're facing one of the worst lineups in the league. This is actually a spot that he can pitch well.
No, I agree with you there. And also take a look at Paul Skeens. Like, he is a great pitcher, no doubt about it. But it doesn't matter. It's like the old DeGrom days sometimes, the New York Mets, Tom. It's like, hey, DeGrom went out there and twirled 8 innings, gave up 1 earned run. Oh, by the way, they lost that game. It's like, well, how? Who knows how? Some guys just don't get those, bats to sort of help them out. And I don't really know outside of 2 or 3 batters in that lineup can help anybody for the Pittsburgh Pirates. But if you are looking at Skeens, here's the difference. On the season, very good statistics. And granted, he still does have very good statistics right now. But I just want to give you the dichotomy of the full season in the last 30 days. 215 is who he faced as many batters here this year. ISO of 131, weighted on base percentage 264, K rate around 25%. You'd like to see that higher? It's still decent for Major League Baseball. Last 30 days, though, Tom, you take a look at the last 122 batters he's faced, that 131 turned into a 191 ISO power number. The weighted on base percentage of 264, now right around average at 318. Lefty and righty batters getting a little power shots off, and the right-handed batters, only a 17% K rate through his last 46 batters that he's faced. If we look at the last 30 days the weighted on base percentage is how they match up with the ERA, it's still a 2.37, which isn't bad. But that xFIP, Tom, is over 4. Are we a little worried about Paul Skeens, or it's just so simple, like, you can be as worried as you want. He plays for Pittsburgh. It doesn't matter. He's not going to win very many ball games anyway.
Yeah, this is what I was kind of alluding to when I said that there's some issues I had with Paul Skeens. Like, I'm okay with a strikeout rate dropping on a year-to-year basis. He was at 33.1% last year. He's down at 24.7% overall this year. His walks are a touch-up. He's not giving up home runs. And again, some of those underlying metrics, as you said, are changing. 17% strikeout rate versus righties over the past, where he said 46 batters faced. That's not good. He should be up at minimum 30. So I think there are some slightly concerning signs with Skeens. Again, I would say very slightly. It's a small sample size. But if he was at 33% strikeout rate last year, the lowest I would want to see him at this year would be 28. He's down at sub 25.
No doubt about it. And you take a look also at McAble, the lineup he's going up against. It is the perfect time to bring him up against a light-hitting Pirates team. Also keep in mind, around 75 degrees time at first pitch today. Windy conditions, 16 miles an hour, but more of a left foul pole to right foul pole. But if those winds are swirling, that ball's in the air, we could see some hits. And then if we take a look again at the Pittsburgh lineup, though, like O'Neal Cruz is in the estimated starting lineup today. And he has great numbers against right-handed pitching over the past 30 days. Everybody else is basically poor. The ISO power numbers are way down. It's just a shame where Paul Skeens is out there. And I didn't want to extrapolate into like the next couple of years, Tom, but what's the point of having Paul Skeens pitch for Pittsburgh? They're going to win nothing. They're going to be in last place every year. They spend no money. Shouldn't you just, again, here's my running joke of the summer. Should we just move on from O'Neal Cruz and Paul Skeens already for Pittsburgh because you're just going to waste them, and what's the point?
I mean, that's the real answer. Like, that's what we would like to see. But the Pirates and their fan base and the ownership already do not have a good relationship. And that would be waving the white flag. Like, we have nothing. There's no way we can compete. I don't think that's the right move from a fan base, but that's what we want to see from the rest of the league, just from an excitement standpoint.
And from an excitement standpoint,
is he turning into Ohtani? We're like, they were never going to win when he was with the Angels, and Ohtani's just like, I got to leave, man.
Yeah, and hopefully they don't do it like, okay, we'll let him leave when his contract is up and we get nothing back for him when we could have got an absolute haul to sort of rebuild that farm system. But when you take a look at the NL Cy Young Award market here, it's Paul Skeens, plus 240 price, above Yamamoto's plus 380. So again, it's like you have, like in hockey, Tom, you have the best goalie. You're probably going to make the playoffs because that's how important that position is. In the NBA, you have the MVP. You know you're going to at least make the playoffs. You have the best pitcher in the National League. You're going to be in last place? Oh, man, it doesn't make sense. That's what Paul Skeens. It's a shame to waste that talent.
It's the same thing, like you said, with DeGrom. It's like the same exact situation. Yep. It's like they're the best pitcher in the league, but the team around them is terrible. I can remember watching Mets games where it's like DeGrom goes out there 7 innings, 1 run, like 9 strikeouts, and they still lose the game like 3-2 because, the bullpen gives up a couple runs, but there's no help for him.
Always the way it is here. Good luck, Paul Skeens in Pittsburgh. Good luck, Pittsburgh, against the Phillies today. McAble making that Major League Baseball. First start today. Should be fun to watch. Let's head out. 1:35 p.m. Keep it in Boston. That's Atlanta and Boston. It's Schwellenbach versus Bayo. This line opened up overnight around a minus 130 price as a favorite to the road team, Atlanta Braves, who got shocked yesterday, blowing that big lead. That's now down a little bit. 125s, 130s in the marketplace. In 8.5, though, Tom, spiking to 9.5 in most of the marketplaces. Schwellenbach and Bayo today. What are we looking at?
We're looking at about 70 degree temperature, about 16 mile per hour winds blowing out to right center. We got some juice here when it comes to offense. Brian Bale got a late start to the season. His surface level metrics look good when we're looking at Bayo. 2.33 ERA. You're like, okay, not too bad. A 4.65 xFIP. That is a massive, massive differential. When we're looking at a 14.8% strikeout rate and a 12.2% walk rate, the league average strikeout rate this year is at 22%, and the league average walk rate is at 8.9%, just shy of 9. So he is significantly lower when it comes to strikeout rate. He's higher when it comes to walk rate, but he hasn't been burned by that yet. When we're going up against an offense like the Braves, which is certainly much better now compared to where it was at the beginning of the season, with wind blowing out, I think we're looking at Braves, and we're looking at Braves offense. I will specifically talk about the Braves scoring runs a little bit later. On the other side, Schwellenbach, he's been great. ERA, xFIP, right in line, 3.31, 3.28 for those two. He's going to strike out some hitters at a decent rate. He is not going to walk anyone with a 5% walk rate. And, man, a ground ball, medium contact pitcher. I think he'll do okay today, but the weather and the hitting in that park at Fenway, I think there's just going to be runs overall.
Yeah, a couple lefties getting the best of him here, but you are right about this. You take a look on the card today, past 30 days, Schwellenbach is 5th out of the 28 pitchers that have graded here. 3.94 ERA, which isn't bad necessarily because he's had 2 rough starts over the past, 5 or 6 weeks, but the rest of them have been pretty good. xFIP number lower at 3.42. And then the interesting part about Bayo is his last 30 days, Tom. He's actually had a low ERA at 2.33, but that xFIP of 4.65. If you look at Schwellenbach, struggles a little bit with lefties in the power game. That's Duran, that's Devers, that's Abreu. Certainly that can do some damage here, but you're right. If I'm looking on the opposite side with the Atlanta Braves today saying, how do we want to match up? Lefties and righties getting the best of, Bayo at times. You take a look at 116 batters that he's faced, 163 ISO weighted on base percentage of 338. Left-handed batters there, Matt Olson, who's struggling batting average-wise, but a 200 ISO and a 334 weighted on base percentage here going up against right-handed pitching. Other guys, Eli White, by the way, 68 at-bats against right-handed pitching, 258 ISO and a 386 weighted on base percentage. So maybe the bats do wake up there in Boston today. They woke up late yesterday for the Red Sox in a key victory. We'll see if they can do that today. Schwellenbach taking on Bayo. We'll see what happens in B-Town. Much more Major League Baseball on the way. This is Pro Baseball Today.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and that's long rehab. You're talking
that's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times. But screw the Celtics.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
The Delmarva Peninsula, can we call it that? Can we have some fun down on the Beltway, the nation's capital? It's the Nationals taking on the Baltimore Orioles today, 1:35 start. That's 9-11, 9-12 on the rotation. How about this? A heavy favorite for Baltimore at a minus 174 overnight, up to now as high as minus 198. We take a look at Soroka on the mound versus Eflin. I'm not quite sure why this line is so high, which we're going to go over in just a few moments. But just take a look at the initial reactions where Baltimore, a struggling team, fires the manager. And now, hey, we're minus 200s to handle the Washington Nationals.
So when it comes to this matchup, obviously there's a lot going on. We have the Orioles, as you said, fire their manager. We talked about that before. They're struggling. We got some nice hitting weather today. Mike Soroka is not a good pitcher. And Donnie, we have talked about this before. It's like, okay, we have this pitcher that's doing X, and we want to look to the lineup. It's like, wow, what the lineup, they don't do the thing that this pitcher struggles with. When it comes to the Orioles, they actually have the pieces to get it done because Soroka this year, struggling versus lefties, comes in with a 222 ISO allowed versus lefties, a 357 WOBA. He's allowing 1.93 home runs per nine to lefties. He has a 24% strikeout rate, which is solid, a 397 xFIP, and a 36% fly ball rate. So when you look at the Orioles overall and we look at their starting lineup, Jackson Holiday lefty, Gunnar Henderson lefty, Rutschman switch hitter lefty, Ryan O'Hearn, Mullins lefty, Kjerstad lefty, they have the pieces to get it done. Now, Eflin on the other side, I'm going to say he's an average pitcher overall. He spent some time on the IL this season. He came back. I think he's a pitcher we can be attacking. I think there will be runs today, and I think the Orioles finally break their losing streak. That's what I'm guessing.
You know what's interesting to me in this one, too, because if you take a look at the season in total, like Michael Soroka's got a high ERA, it's 6.43. But his analytical numbers, like xERA 3.30, xFIP number 3.49, which is pretty incredible to see it play out. He does have a decent strikeout, which should keep him in. Not a great lineup, per se, on a day-to-day basis for the Orioles, at least hitting-wise right now. Holiday, Henderson, O'Hearn, was it O'Neill went on the IL. Laureano's in the lineup. They do have high ISOs and weighted on base percentages here. But for me, I look at that and say, you know what? I think Soroka might be able to keep them down. 75-degree temperatures, a heavy wind blowing out to right field. We might get some fun. But from a Washington perspective, going up against here, that Orioles pitcher, which is Zach Eflin, 89 at-bats that he's faced on the year so far. It's a 155 ISO and a 278 weighted on base percentage. Doesn't really have a lot over the past 30 days because he was on the IL and skipped some starts. It'd be interesting to see how he comes back. One guy I do know I love as a right-handed pitcher going up against a left-handed batter, it's James Wood. 297 ISO, 419 weighted on base percentage. If he can get a hold of one and pull the baseball, just get it in the air. That bad boy's probably gone today down in Baltimore.
I mean, like you said, Eflin, smaller sample size, but so far this year to lefties, he has a 51% fly ball rate allowed. And we and I will be specifically talking about James Wood in the next segment. And if we look back to last year, again, from Eflin, if we want to get larger sample size, 1.2 home runs per nine allowed to lefties and a 42% fly ball rates. We got some juice there.
No, we might have some juice down there. Again, wind blowing out. We'll see what happens, stacks up. But that is a monster number for the Baltimore Orioles. Do they get the bump of firing a manager? We are going to find out a little bit later on this afternoon. Once again, that start time at 1:35. Keep it moving down the list here. It's the Tigers and it's the Blue Jays. Job on the mound going up against Jose Barrios. 907, 908 on the rotation. A 1:37 start here in Toronto. That line opened up as a slight favorite to Toronto and still sits that way. As high as a minus 135 price in the marketplace. 8.5 is the total overnight. Still sits at 8.5. Barrios, Job, Detroit, Toronto. What's up?
So I really do like the offense in this game. Both pitchers are, I'm going to say, like, I literally have no faith in these pitchers. We've talked about Jackson Job. We talked about the start of the season, one of their young pitchers. And I think he's in for a good season, but this is just not the matchup for him when we're looking at the ISO allowed to lefties, to lefty hitters specifically. For Job, it's over 240. We're looking at that. Barrios is a pitcher that is struggling mightily this season. I think we should see home runs on both sides. That's what I want to preface this by, because I'll talk about Vladdy when it comes to the hit parlay that I already tweeted out. I'll talk about a Tigers hitter for a home run prop, but Donnie, I have no faith in either of these pitchers to keep the ball down and not prevent scoring from happening, especially when we're seeing Barrios 1.88 home runs per nine allowed to righties. The Tigers have one of, if not the best offenses in the league. They have power, they have speed, they can hit for contact, they don't strike out too much. I love what I'm seeing from the Tigers, and I think the Blue Jays are good, but I'm not convinced about Job to shut them down.
Yeah, Toronto. I wonder if the roof's going to be open today because again, it's a big
Great
stadium.
question.
There's not any like, hey, stuff is going to blow in from center field, but that wind can swirl, and it really is going to do that today. 60-degree temperature, so it'll probably be open 15 miles per hour. We'll see if it aids it more to right field. But when I take a look at Jackson Jobe, doesn't matter full year statistics. I think he has about 33 innings pitched total here, and then coming in over the last 30 days here, which again, nothing is stacking up well on the season. Jackson Jobe is actually the worst pitcher on the card today. A 4.32 ERA, which isn't disastrous, but how about a 5.12 xFIP number? If we take a look at the last 30 days for him, and you say, all right, well, let's limit it to 18 and a third innings pitched. How about a 5.40 ERA and a 5.17 xFIP number? That's high. And also, just for me, hey, we give out home runs later in the show. Dalton Varsho, left-handed batter against right-handed pitching over the past 30 days. A 5.28 ISO and a weighted on base percentage of 4.53. Now, granted, he does strike out a lot, but if he makes contact, that ball's leaving the yard today because Jobe, last 30 days up against left-handed batters, how about a 3.45 ISO time and a 3.67 weighted on base percentage? I got 3, 4, 6 to 7 plus batters in that Toronto lineup today. I'm thinking they're doing damage as well.
That's my thought. Like we can kind of pencil in the Detroit offense, and it's a real plus matchup for the Blue Jays offense. And listen, lefties versus Jobe this year, he's allowing 2.40 home runs per 9. We're gonna get some scoring today.
We are. And by the way, that Detroit lineup, which we've been waiting, it seems like, for the past year or two, some of these guys should be better. And I see Riley Green probably bringing a smile to your face, finally starting to pop some home runs, get those power numbers going to add up. But Jose Barrios, again, struggling on the season with left-handed batters, even in the past 30 days, 72 left-handed batters he's faced. The power not necessarily is there against him with a 136 with the ISO, but a 369 weighted on base percentage. And if you're looking at guys that are hot against right-handed pitchers, it's Kerry Carpenter, it's Zach McKinstry, it's Riley Green. Those are left-handed batters. But how about this? The rebirth of Javi Baez in the 9-hole. His last 61 at-bats against right-handed pitching, Tom. How about a 333 ISO and a 448 weighted on-base percentage? Yes, we're talking runs in the 6 today, and we'll certainly see what happens. Let's keep it moving. The Battle of Ohio coming up next right here on the Grid.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and that's long rehab. You're talking
That's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times, but screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
More action, I said. The battle of OHIO. It's how we get down. Like, why are these rivalry weekends here? There are a lot of forced rivalries nonetheless, but at least you can say, like, okay, the battle of the state makes some sense. Now, they don't play in the same league. One is National League with the Reds. One is American League with the Cleveland Guardians. But it is what it is, and it's a breakdown that we'll get after. I'm sure the fans are very angry with each other, and a lot of passion going to be in the stands today in Cincinnati. Ortiz versus Abbott, a 140 start here, Tom. This one opened up around a minus 145 price overnight as a favorite to the home team, Cincinnati Reds. Numbers come down a little bit. Minus 125s, minus 130s now out there in the atmosphere, and a total of 9 at the opening number still sits at 9. Ortiz, Abbott, Guardians, Reds. What do we got?
Yeah, we got some nice hitting weather, as we'd like to see, especially at the Great American Small Park. I'm not surprised that the number has moved a little bit. The Guards are a good team. I assume they'll command a decent amount of respect, especially given a plus money price on the money line. Andrew Abbott has got some serious gas on the mound. A 31.7% strikeout rate this year is phenomenal. So he does struggle a little bit with walks, up at 10%. His xFIP, 3.71, solid pitcher overall. Fly balls, slight issue, up at 57%. He's not allowing hard contact, though. It's only 20% overall. If you look at the lefty-righty splits, he's solid overall, really not giving up too much power. Luis Ortiz, I think there's a path to seeing some runs in this game, especially combined with the hitting. When we're looking at some of the lefty hitters that he struggled with this year, Ortiz that is, he's allowing over 200 ISO to left-handed hitters. So if we're going to be seeing Ellie De La Cruz lead things off, or not lead things off, specifically, but in the middle of the lineup. TJ Friedel, I think we can look to him for some power. Austin Hayes, he's a righty, but he has decent power if they bring him in. Gavin Lux has been a surprise for the Reds this year. I think runs are the answer today, despite seeing 2 decent pitchers on the mound.
So, and again, 71-degree temperatures, 8-mile-an-hour winds blowing out. Very good temperatures, very good atmosphere there. We should get some runs in that respect. But Andrew Abbott's been pretty good. Take a look at even his last 30 days, Tom. 25 innings pitched. How about a 2.16 ERA and an xFIP number of 3.58? Here's the issue I have. Like, sometimes you could just pencil in like to say, hey, Stephen Kwan should get in the lineup. But this isn't a lineup that done very well, Tom, over the past 30 days. Kwan does have a 333 weighted on base percentage and a low K rate against lefties, which is fine as a left-handed batter. Jose Ramirez, decent numbers to his last 18 at-bats against lefties over the past month at 200 ISO and a 441 weighted on base percentage. He's the best of the bunch. But Manzardo does have a slightly higher ISO power number, but a low weighted on base percentage. Then Santana, Arise, Noel, Wilson, Martinez, and Hedges, all low numbers. Like, I just don't see it from the lineup today with the Guardians for myself, Tom.
I would say it would have to be like the top 4, top 3 really push things, and then the others just do just enough to get Abbott out of the game, and that's where the runs would start to come. And it really has to start off with the top 3.
Yeah, it does. And take a look at Luis Ortiz on the mound. His last 27 innings pitched, Tom, over the past month. A 4 ERA, a 3.81 xFIP number, but a much better presenting lineup today than what we were just talking about with Abbott. You got Friedel with the good numbers, Ellie De La Cruz with decent numbers, Austin Hayes, Gavin Lux, and also Will Benson. 19 at-bats against right-handed pitching the past month. 471 ISO and a 568 weighted on base percentage and only a 10% strikeout rate. So maybe some lightning down at the bottom of that lineup. So some interesting doings here in the state of Ohio. But as we go to Ohio, let's take it down the South Beach here. And that's Tampa going up against Miami. That's Boz going up against Quantrill. 9-13, 9-14 on the rotation. That's a 140 start today. A favorite here for Tampa Bay. Open up around minus 150. Those prices are gone for the most part. Minus 165s, minus 168s out here. 8.5 is the total. Still sitting at 8.5. Tampa Bay and Miami. Boz, Quantrill.
Yeah, I would say a lot has to do with just the quality of pitching overall. We got to remember that Shane Boz was a former first-round pick many years ago for Tampa Bay. Struggled, dealt with some injuries, but 25% strikeout rate is solid overall. He's got his ERA is over 5, but his xFIP is at 3.88. So I like what we're seeing from him. The fly balls can be a bit of an issue for him. I think this matchup has more to do with Cal Quantrill on the other side, who's again not a pitcher that I've ever trusted to do anything that resembles success on the mound when we're looking at a sub 15% strikeout rate. His walk rate's about 8%. And the power that we have from Tampa, we have 4 hitters that are all above 172. 3 of them are up at over 200. Lau, Aranda, and Caminero over 200 ISOs versus righties. I think the Rays get it done.
I think we're getting runs today. I really do. Now, it's not a great ballpark nonetheless, but also it's 89-degree temperatures. You would love for that heat and humidity to be able to creep into that giant ballpark today. But, of course, South Florida people don't like the heat. That's why they live in South Florida. It doesn't make any sense. Same thing in Houston. Hey, I live in Houston because I like the warm weather, just not for baseball. I don't like to do that here. We'll see how it plays out, but there are a lot of batters in this lineup, which includes Kyle Stowers. 73 at-bats over the past month against right-handed pitching, a 469 ISO, and a 484 weighted on-base percentage. Boz, to start the year, very good. Boz lately, a little bit leaky. Runs in South Beach? Might we get that here? We keep rolling with Major League Baseball in the hour number 2 next.